Hi, Dr. Saldivar here. Today we're looking at Chapter 10 of Feldman's text, Essentials of Understanding Psychology. Chapter 10 is on the topic of personality. Personality we can define as a unique mix of thoughts, emotions, and actions that make you who you are as a person, who you are as a unique individual. To rephrase, maybe in plain English, you can think of personality as your personal style that stays with you, that remains mostly the same as you go through life and deal with different situations. Your personality will develop in the early part of your life, but typically, most people, once they reach their teen and early adult years, your personality is mostly set and will mostly be what it will be for the rest of your life. There are some exceptions to that, but that is generally the case, that our personalities tend to manifest themselves and to reach kind of a mature state in the sense of not having a lot of further change by the time that we reach our early adulthood. So, what characterizes personality? There are four areas we look at in psychology: patterns in how you think, feel, and act. Your personality will describe the quote usual ways in which you process information, the way you experience emotions, the way you behave in the world around you. For example, you might be a person who tends to think things through very carefully before making a decision or making some move. You might be someone who feels emotions very intensely, more than other people. You might be a person who acts cautiously in new situations in terms of meeting people, making decisions, making changes in your life. Now, these are meant to be three separate examples. You certainly may have one individual who has all three of those characteristics, but many of us may have one or more, and others as well. But again, this first characteristic of personality is this idea of patterns of how you think, feel, and act. The next characteristic is the unique qualities that set each individual person apart. These are the traits that make you a unique individual. The kind of stuff, perhaps, that others might describe or identify if they were asked to talk about you. Are you known for having a quick wit, for being quick with a comeback or a funny or sarcastic comment? Are you someone who's very calm under pressure, even if there's a lot of stress around or other people are freaking out, but you're able to keep calm? Are you someone who can make friends really easily without a lot of effort? These are kinds of characteristics that help make you a unique person, that sets you apart from others. Next, traits that remain fairly stable over time. Again, in most cases, your core personality, once it becomes set in your late teens, early adulthood, doesn't tend to change dramatically even as you grow older. If you're outgoing and adventurous as a young person, if you like a lot of adventure, you like doing things on your own, you like taking risks, you'll probably still have those qualities well into your adult life. They may manifest themselves differently. For example, young people who don't have their own families, who may be just starting on their careers, who maybe don't have a lot of material possessions, don't have children, they may be more willing to take risks in terms of their safety. They might do adventure sports or go travel to places that may be a little bit, not the safest places. Because they're young, don't have families, don't have a lot of responsibilities. As you get older and maybe start a family, have children, have a career that's important to you, have a career you don't want to lose because that would have a major impact on your life. You may not exhibit the same kind of risk-taking behaviors, for example, but that doesn't mean you aren't still an adventurous person. You're just kind of manifesting that adventurousness in a different way. Finally, the fourth characteristic of what characterizes personality: tendencies that shape how we interact with the world. Your personality is going to influence how you deal with, how you interact with the world around us, including other people. If you're an optimistic person, you might tend to see setbacks, problems, challenges as temporary. Certainly, no one likes to have setbacks or have problems in life. That's never fun. But you might view them as temporary, as a bump in the road. Things will be better tomorrow. Someone less optimistic might see them as a terrible disaster, and I'll never come back from this, and life is going to be terrible from here on out. There isn't necessarily a right or wrong way to look at things, but our personality will have a tremendous impact on how we look at things. Over the years, psychologists have taken 5 main theoretical approaches to the study of personality. Again, these are obviously explained in more detail in the reading. The psychodynamic perspective focuses on the unconscious thoughts, ideas, thoughts, thinking that we're not necessarily aware of, even though it's happening inside our minds. Unconscious thoughts, experiences we have as young people during the early parts of our lives when we're going through a rapid period of development. Um, Psychodynamic researchers who think about personality will argue that a lot of times we have conflicts, trauma, challenges that come into our adult lives from our childhood. We often are not aware of these issues, and yet they still can define us in many ways that end up having a huge impact on who we are as people and our personalities. Researchers who focus on the idea of traits see personality as a set of characteristics, descriptors that can be measured. They see personality as kind of like a recipe where everyone has different amounts of these different traits. Traits might include being very optimistic, very outgoing, or not, being very eager to, enjoying communicating with other people, being outgoing, or not. It just depends on the particular exact theory of personality, but they're all grounded, or this school of thought is grounded in this idea of traits. Other researchers think about personality from the perspective of learning. They say that we develop our personalities by learning by the stuff that we see happening around us in the world, in our environment. And these researchers tend to focus on behaviors coming about because we learn that society, the world, our culture, however you want to think of it, will reward or punish us based on stuff that we do or don't do. Sometimes this comes from our own direct experience. Sometimes it comes from observing others. A biological school of thought about personality looks at how our genes, our brain structure, our body chemistry, hormones, other biological aspects of us as human beings, how they affect personality. We know, for example, a lot of our moods, a lot of our emotional state is affected by our hormone levels, by the production of different hormones by our endocrine system. So that's an example of how our biology can affect our mood, which in turn that may have an effect over the long term on our personality. And then finally, humanistic researchers focus on personality as an aspect of our personal growth, our search for self fulfillment. They kind of look at the idea that the central thing that drives, central motivation of humans is to try and live our happiest, best lives, whatever that means to each of us individually. And so that is kind of what shapes our personality. Again, these different views are not necessarily as separate or as incompatible as it may seem from my presentation here. I'm just trying to divide them up or demarcate them so you have an idea of these 5 major schools of thought. Personality can be assessed using a variety of methods. A big challenge with personality is, of course, it's difficult to measure directly in the sense that I can measure someone's height or weight. If I want to measure your height, I can walk up to you with a tape measure. If I want to measure your weight, I can put you on a scale. Personality, there's no one ruler, metaphorically, that we can use. So we typically have to use indirect methods. Examples include self-reported questionnaires, surveys. People answer questions about their behaviors or feelings. Another technique is called observer ratings, where we ask individuals who know someone, family, friends, to rate someone according to various traits. My brother is very outgoing, strongly agree, disagree, whatever. Interviews, another technique that has often been used to try and get more insights into someone's personality profile. Projective tests, kind of a mouthful. Basically, this just means seeing how people respond to what we call ambiguous stimuli, to see what they're maybe unconsciously thinking about. A famous example of this is the Rorschach test, where someone is shown what's called an ink blot, an image made by dropping ink on a piece of paper or some other medium, and then showing it to people. Objectively speaking, neutrally speaking, that ink blot is just a blot of ink. It's just kind of a blob of color on a piece of paper. But sometimes people will see a certain image, and the idea with projective tests is that by trying to interpret or make sense of what kinds of images people see in this ink blot image, we get some insights into their personality. Behavioral assessments are basically what they sound like, observing how people act in specific situations, assessing their behavior. And then finally, physiological measures, where we measure what are called biological markers, physical data about individuals' brain scan data, hormone levels, to try and get some insights into their personality, or at least characteristics of their personality. This physiological measure, let me comment here. I said earlier that it takes our lifetimes for our personalities to evolve. Massive, significant personality change in a short period is very rare. Well, the reason it's rare is because typically what it takes for a personality to change significantly in a short period of time is some kind of trauma, either an experienced trauma, a stressful event that's external to us, physical conflict, injury, assault, or having a disorder, a medical disorder, some kind of syndrome, some kind of injury to our brain that can result in changes to personality. There's a sad phenomenon that's known, for example, older individuals who have Alzheimer's. And once it begins to advance, there's a very common phenomenon. Not everyone with Alzheimer's will have this happen, but many will, where they become very unpleasant people. There's no other way to put it, and I certainly don't want to be flippant about a serious situation, but it's the best way to describe it. I've read accounts. I've even known people who've had Alzheimer's have had this happen. They go from being very pleasant, or at least you don't have a problem with being around someone, to all of a sudden they become very unpleasant. They'll say nasty things. They'll insult you. They'll complain about things that are unreasonable. And you wonder where's this coming from? Well, they're not really angry, or they're not really bad people. It's that the disease, the affliction of Alzheimer's in this example, has started to affect the part of their brain that is involved in personality. And so their ability to get along with others, their ability to kind of let things go that they may have had that worked perfectly. They may have been perfectly pleasant, easy to get along with people before. All of a sudden, they reach a point because of the disease where they're just not fun to be around. They're complaining. They're being mean and nasty. Again, the point here is that there are this is an example of physiological, biological stuff that can affect our personality. Each of these methods has its strengths and limitations. So there's not a right or wrong way. Psychologists typically in the real world will use a combination of approaches if they really want to get a comprehensive assessment, a comprehensive understanding of someone's personality. Let's review the major ideas from this chapter. Again, personality is the unique mix of thoughts, emotions, and actions that make you who you are as a unique individual. Psychologists have taken 5 main approaches to the study of personality. We've talked about those. And then we've also looked at various methods that have been used and are still being used to assess personality. This concludes this video. I hope you found this overview of these ideas from this chapter in Feldman's text to be helpful. I'll see you in class. Good luck.